The Apple Orchard Legacy. A jarring alarm blared, piercing the quiet of the late afternoon. On Ethan and Dylan's iPad, a screen of bright red numbers flashed, signaling a critical failure in the irrigation system. They rushed to the packing shed window, looking out at the rows of apple trees that had lost their vibrancy. The leaves and fruit were beginning to shrivel and shrink. This year's harvest was nearly gone. At that moment, Ethan's phone rang. His face went pale as he heard the news. Greengrocer was canceling the contract and demanding compensation. The Miller family farm was now facing a lawsuit, with the very real threat of bank foreclosure. Anxiety turned to anger. Ethan and Dylan began to argue, blaming each other. "I checked the data. Do you know how much work I put into that code?" Ethan yelled. "But you never went out to the field. You trusted those numbers too much," Dylan shot back. They had placed all their faith in automated technology, ignoring the need for hands-on work. In the middle of the heated exchange, an old man quietly walked in. It was Grandpa Joe. He bent down and picked up a withered apple, his hand trembling. "Boys," his voice choked, "this treasure, our family has protected it for generations, and now it's being lost because you don't know how to value it?" His eyes were filled with pain and disappointment as he looked directly at each of them. His words struck Ethan and Dylan like a heavy blow. The grandfather's legacy. Sensing their despair, Grandpa Joe decided to tell the story of their great-grandfather. He held up an old, greasy wrench, a keepsake that symbolized the farm's beginning. "Before he passed," Grandpa Joe began, "he told his 3 sons, 'There's a great treasure waiting for you, right under this land.' We thought it was gold or jewels, and we used our tractors to dig everywhere, but we only found disappointment. Frustrated by all the effort we wasted, we threw the half-eaten apples we were holding onto the ground in anger. We never expected that 2 months later, the first young seedlings would sprout from the soil. That's when we started to care more. We took turns watering and tending to them. From those fragile young plants, the first green leaves slowly appeared. Over the next few years, we patiently cared for the trees, pruning and shaping them. The young trees grew stronger, reaching toward the sun. Then one spring, the orchard was lit up in a pure white color. Thousands of apple blossoms bloomed, filling the air with a sweet scent. We continued to work, meticulously watching each flower and tiny new fruit. Day by day, they grew, becoming plump and round and gradually turning a bright red. One autumn morning, with dew still clinging to the leaves, we walked into the orchard. All 3 of us were speechless. The vast orchard was now heavy with ripe, red apples, glistening in the sunlight. We had a great harvest, and when we saw the fruit of our own labor, we truly understood. The code and the conscience. After hearing their grandfather's story, Ethan and Dylan didn't have a sudden epiphany. The story wasn't a miracle. It was a seed planted in their minds, beginning to grow new thoughts. Ethan, a man of logic and data, started connecting the story to his own work. "You're right, Grandpa," he whispered. "We only looked at the numbers, without understanding the true meaning of the orchard. The treasure isn't just data on a screen. It's life. It's the connection we lost." He got to work, pulling all-nighters to rewrite the control algorithms and reprogram the sensors. This time, he didn't work alone. He constantly asked Grandpa Joe for advice, cross-referencing the numbers on the screen with his grandfather's years of practical experience. Dylan, who had always been indifferent to the farm, became obsessed with the image of the blossoms. He realized that their great-grandfather's dedication was not just work, it was love. He started spending time in the orchard, personally checking each tree and comparing it with the computer data to get a deeper understanding of what was happening. "They planted patience and love," he said to Ethan. and we only planted arrogance. This was the perfect blend of Grandpa Joe's traditional experience and the two brothers' modern technological knowledge. Every line of code they fixed and every sensor they replaced was a step toward reconnecting with the farm and their family legacy. The harvest of a new generation. A month later, the farm was not only back on its feet, but operating more efficiently than ever. Ethan and Dylan had created a perfect automated system, but instead of leaving it to run on its own, they actively monitored and optimized it every day. The whole family gathered, working together in harmony to harvest the apples. "Grandpa," Dylan said, "I get it now. This land is only the beginning. The real treasure has always been wisdom and hard work, but it must be accumulated and adapted to a changing world." Grandpa Joe smiled, looking at his grandsons with pride. He knew the spirit of the farmer had been passed down, not by hands covered in dirt, but by the minds and dedication of a new generation. On the wall, a faded photo of their great-grandfather stood next to a new one. The new photo showed the whole family harvesting together, their faces lit with bright smiles. The old lesson was not forgotten. It had been brought to life in a new generation. The Miller family shows us that lasting wealth or enduring hardship is not about luck, but about our intelligence, hard work, and ability to adapt. That is the true way to a strong and happy life.